Welcome to BottleJockey, a new gamified blind tasting experience where you can host events, you can join other people who are hosting the event, and you can keep track of all your tastings, blind tastings in the app or also non-blind tastings. You want to go ahead and log in here at the bottom, don't have an account. You're going to have to be 21 or over to use the app, so if you are, go ahead and select yes, put in your first name, your last name, your email, your phone number, and an 8-digit password that has an uppercase, a lowercase, a number, and a symbol. That'll generate an OTP to your text. You'll put that in here and hit submit. You'll be ready to go. So you got the app and you're ready to plan an event. Click the yellow rectangle at the top that says create an event. Choose the number of tasters at the event, 10 for the free app, up to 20 for the premium app. Choose the event type, whether it's white wine or red wine, whether guests should bring their own bottle or not. And then pick the number of bottles you're going to be tasting. Anywhere between 2 and 9 is fine. It's a 2-page prep process, so you're done with page 1, skipping to page 2. At the top, you're going to put in the theme of the party. In this case, red's under $60. Generally recommended that if you're staying under $60, that you kind of also create a bottom threshold of about half that number, so about $30. So keep the wine between $30 and $60. Include your phone number here, so it's in case your guests need to get in contact with you ahead of the event. Pick a calendar date, a week or two in advance at least. Use the clock here to dial in your time. The location will auto-populate as you type in the address of the event. And then at the bottom here, the detail section, this is the only optional part of the page. Everything else is mandatory to continue. And you can put as much or as little information as you want here, but this will live in the invite for your guests to see leading up to the event, which is helpful. You could also choose to leave these details just in the body of the text. As you send that text to that group, include it before or after you actually send the link to the invite. So here I'm asking everyone to bring a guest. I'm also telling them to bring a bottle of medium or full-bodied red to participate in the event, and I could put in $30 to $60 if I wanted. I'm hitting save, and now we are complete. I do have a kit already, so I'm going to say maybe later here, but if I needed a kit, I would purchase. Now I'm going to actually do the text link there near the bottom, and I did the copy link. I'm now moving back over to my messages. I already have a group set up. I've told them that I have a party coming. I paste it here. I send, and I'm ready to go for my event. My guests now have been invited. So you're new to BottleJockey. Your friend has told you they're inviting you to a party. Here you are receiving a text from your friend. Comes in, you go to your text link. You see the invite there, tap it. If you have the app, it'll look like this. If not, it'll make you get the app. Go ahead and let them know you want to bring a bottle. Here you say yes, and then it'll just sit there with the calendar invite until the day of the event. At the day of the event, once the party starts, you'll have an option to sit here in the waiting room. You might be able to assist host. If you want to assist host, please talk to your host about assisting them. Don't just start tapping things. Here's what the page will look like when you get into the event and start to prep as you assist the host. Okay, so the day of your event is here. You're ready to prep. You're going to open up to the home page of the app. You're going to find the gray box that shows your date. It's going to open up the invite screen here. It's going to ask you if you still want the same number of bottles. We do. We want 9. So in the bottom left, we hit prep. First time using the app, it's going to ask you to use your camera. You need that both for scanning QR codes, as you see here. You don't have to get the QR code super close. About 6 inches is the sweet spot. But on the label, you do want to bring that up, make that really big, and hit that circle at the bottom to take your photo. That will automatically advance you to the questions that are needed to be asked. 4 mandatory questions. We're going to go ahead and jump ahead here to the 7th bottle to take you through a full process of answering those questions. So grab any bottle that you have not yet scanned into the tasting. Take the next bottle that you have to add into the tasting, bring that label super close, get it nice and centered, and then go ahead and take that picture. It auto advances to these 4 mandatory questions. If you're not happy with your picture, by the way, just go up to Manage Photos and change that picture out. If your bottle's a non-vintage, there's an NA option. Go ahead and select that. In this case, it's a 2014. If your brand is not here, the Mi Sueño, you can go ahead and type that out, hit the plus sign there, and it'll add that for any future times using that bottle. Most brands are in there. The varietal and the region, just type in any 3 letters. It'll auto-populate the option. This happens to be a Napa Valley blend. So we're going to hit red blend. And then in region, we're going to put in NAP and Napa Valley. And there's a couple hundred regions from around the world that are also in the database that'll auto-populate. Down here, these last two are not mandatory fields. This just happens to be a bottle that it's not the only bottle of red that Mi Sueño produces. So we're going to put in the specific name of this bottle, El Llano, and then we're going to go ahead and add the cost. Again, not a mandatory field. We'll go ahead and hit submit. It's going to take us to the transfer page. We have as long as we want here to do the transfer. When complete, we'll hit done. The best way to do a prep is to have 3 people if possible. It takes less than 10 minutes for 3 people to prep an event. One person takes 20 to 25 minutes. Best way to do it is have the host or whoever knows the app best to do the inputs on the app, have another person hold the bottle and read off vintage, varietal, etc. And when those 2 people are done with the bottle, they pass that off to a third person that you see here who will both uncork the bottle and then do the transfer. This happens to be the premium funnel. You can see how it kind of disperses and aerates the wine as you go through the pour. When completed, we're going to hit done. Here we are going to advance through the last 2 bottles, at which point it's going to let us know it's time to shuffle. One person can probably shuffle, but if you wanted to have multiple people go ahead and shuffle, that's fine too. And then when you're done shuffling, when you feel like it's complete, you're ready to move on to part 2 of the prep. Now that we're at the second and final part of the prep, we're just a few minutes away from beginning the tasting. You should be at a screen that shows 9 colored crowns. And what we're going to do here, since we're doing a 9-bottle event, we're going to pick up every silk. We're going to put them randomly on the neck of any bottle. Note these bottles have been shuffled. If we were doing just a 3-bottle event, we would only need the red, yellow, and navy silks. For 4, 5, or 6 bottles, the lime, the orange, and the sky silks. And for 7, 8, or 9 bottles, the pink, the forest, or the violet silks. Note that we're leaving the QR code in the back of the bottle exposed for one final scan. Here's the page I referenced earlier, the colored crowns. We're going to jump ahead and do 3 automatically. You can see the red polka dots, the orange squares, and the navy stars have all been submitted. The next bottle up will be the pink stripes. In the bottom left, we're going to click on that. It automatically opens up the scanner. We then grab the bottle that's been ringed by the pink stripe silk. We give that a scan, and now you see that that has been submitted. As we continue through this visual process, which is rather obvious at this point, I'm just going to answer some frequently asked questions about BottleJockey. Some people have asked what's the best type of event to do from a style perspective. Have your friends bring the wine or you acquire it ahead of time. It's really fun to have your friends bring wine, stuff they've bought at a winery, stuff that they have in a cellar or a wine fridge potentially that you don't normally have access to. That's great. The challenge is all your friends have to basically arrive on time or potentially deliver you the bottle early to prep. Alternatively, you could host the event out of your own pocket. You could ask your friends for Venmo, or in the corporate events that I've seen done, just put that on the expense account and have 1 or 2 people volunteer to prep the event ahead of time. There's also an opportunity to assist the host. I explained one version earlier where you just use 1 mobile device and 3 people. That is pretty quick. But if you wanted to use multiple mobile devices, I will put out a future video on that. There is one challenge, and that is if 2 people pick the same bottle, you could have some crossover and actually ruin your prep of your event, ruin your event completely. So you want to be careful with that. Wait for the video is what I'd recommend. And then lastly, people have asked, can you only do red and white wine, or what's the future of BottleJockey? There will be more alternatives in the future. In fact, now if you really wanted to try something else, you could say it's a red wine event. Just fill out the different criteria to the best of your ability to the bourbon you might be tasting, or the tequila, the vodka, the lemonade, the olive oil, whatever. Just use your best judgment in doing that. But you could do that today using these bottles. So I encourage you to do that if that's what you're into. Here we are doing the last bottle, one final scan. Put the bottle down. We'll slide the silk down. Notice that it says begin tasting at the bottom. That's now highlighted. That wasn't there before. It's asking you, are you ready to begin tasting? And then this is what the tasting page looks like. So we're ready to move on. The prep is complete. We're ready to play. Every individual participating will see this summary screen on their mobile device. You're just going to go ahead and pick any wine closest to you. Different people at the party can taste in whatever time they want, whatever order they want. Highly recommend putting in some verbatims here in the notes section. The stars are really entirely up to you if you want to use that or not. That is great for historical reference. This happens to be a premium account, so there's all these extra questions that someone has desired to have, but you don't have to worry about that unless you or the host have that. You want to click that box about don't make me answer everything. I think that's really important. Now we're going to jump ahead and we're going to say that 8 bottles have been tasted now with an initial taste. We're going to move our favorite, the Wow Forest Green, up to the top by touching the hamburger menu on the right and bringing that up. We're going to move our Hate It Yellow by touching that hamburger menu. You see the yellow change color a little bit, and we're going to slide that all the way down to the bottom and put everything else in between. Now we're going to come back in with the second taste. So the initial round of tasting, really small. If you're using the measured pour spouts, you're getting a 1/2 ounce pour, really tiny. You're able to come back about 3 times, have 1.5 ounces of wine per glass, puts you at just over 2 glasses through a full tasting if you absolutely use all 3 of your 1/2 ounce tastes. You always have to go down to the bottom to hit save. Remember that. Here we've now put in multiple notes. We've gone through a couple rounds of tasting, maybe even gone back and gone through a 3rd round on a couple of them. Again, small 1/2 ounce pours if you're doing it that way. Go ahead and put that in. As you move back to the summary page, you now see the blue diamonds will have the 3 there. We want it in our 3rd spot. This is how we're going to go ahead and lock in. I'm going to hit done. I don't want to review my rankings, so I'm going to go ahead and hit submit, lock in. And now I'm going to wait on this page. As the host, I'm going to stay here until everyone else is done. If I hit complete event early, I'm going to basically stop anyone else from being able to taste. So I want to be very careful as the host not to do that. Once you do hit done, once everyone's done, you've hit the time limit or everyone's done, you're going to get to this page. This is the summary page. You're going to see win, place, and show. You're going to see the group ranking on the left. If I tap my results, the win, place, or show will change at the top, assuming there's multiple tasters. And you're going to get that ranking down the right, just my ranking. No one else will see that. The host doesn't see it. Only each participant sees their own individual ranking. If you want to, tap into any one of the bottles and it'll remind you what you said about that wine. Immediately after the event, as long as you signed in with a regular BottleJockey account, you'll get an email. I've noticed some challenges having this email come through the Apple or Google sign-in process, so consider that if you don't get it. But here it'll show you which bottle of wine, which brand is associated with which silk for both your ranking and the group ranking. So this is a great place to know if you want to go back and retry something. And then lastly, just in perpetuity, as you're at a grocery store 2 weeks later, 2 months later, and you're like, what was that wine we had at that tasting event? You can go back in here. This is your tasting history. You can click on this. You can sort by how recently you did it or vintage or brand. And you can come up with that bottle and you can see how many stars you put on it, or you can tap into it to see your notes. Hope you enjoy BottleJockey. Cheers.